Hey everyone, before we get into this episode, I just wanted to say that listener discretion is advised. On this episode, we are going to be covering the topic of suicide, self harm, violence, and there will be some adult language on this episode, so it is not suitable for small children. So just proceed at your own discretion. Hope you guys enjoy the episode.
I basically was so depressed that, I was like, this is it. I went to Home Depot. I was crying in line. I bought duct tape and a garden hose, and, I tried to gas myself. I taped up my windows in my car, taped
Gosh.
the garden hose up into my thing. When the ambulance found me, I was unconscious. They had to revive me on the side of the road.
You
And
actually tried it. You actually did it.
oh yeah, no, I did it. Yeah, I
Oh,
was
wow.
like, they said I was dead for like at least 2 minutes. And
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Young Electrician Podcast. My name is Ruben Young, aka the Young Electrician. I'm here today again with my boy Nico. What's up, Nico?
what up? Aloha, guys.
Heck yeah. I always say on this channel that we like to see electricians grow, not just in the field, but also in their personal lives. And that's kind of something we're going to talk about today. Today, we're going to talk about mental health and construction. I think it's something that's pretty ignored in the trades, and I think it's definitely something that affects all of us. It's something that affects my life, and I know it's something that affects Nico's life. And I really want to have this discussion with Nico because he has some experience in this. I have some experience in this. Neither one of us are mental health professionals, so I just want to clarify that. Don't go see your doctor. Go talk to a professional. But what we'd like to do today is we would like to just shed light on this and share some of our stories, share some of the things that we did to overcome it, some of the things we're doing now. Hopefully to kind of just shed some light on it and benefit some of you guys that are struggling, need some help, and just don't know what to do. So I do want to clarify that neither one of us are professionals, and I want to clarify what we mean by mental health. We're not talking about like some psychiatric issues. Again, neither one of us are professionals. We're talking about the regular mental health that everybody deals with, the stresses, trauma of life that just weighs us down. And really just affects us. It affects our work life. It affects our home life. It affects our relationships with our spouses, our friends, our family, our children. So with that said, Nico, anything you want to say to start off with before we hop into this?
Well, I think the first one to say is this is actually Mental Health Month, so
Oh,
this is a perfect topic for today. And it's we have to look out for ourselves, and I think our brothers in the trade. So this is a great topic to talk about. And I've had a lot of personal experience in this, and I'm gonna get vulnerable and be willing to share with you guys some of the stories that I went through. And it's not an easy thing. As men, we don't want to talk about our feelings or what's going on with ourselves, and this could lead us down a very dark path because we actually need to be able to reach out and ask for help. And knowing how we are, and then that there is help out there. We have insurance that's able to help us out. We have other brothers in the trade that have gone through these experiences. And we can benefit from this and recover before we get to a point where it's almost too late. And so I guess let's start off with the first question. What
right.
what what are these things that cause mental health problems? And
Yeah.
I think a big one's kind of relationships, dude, with like your woman or your significant other. And
Yeah.
when you're having problems at home, with your girlfriend or your wife, and you're either going through like a breakup or a divorce, or you guys are fighting at the moment, you are not mentally prepared at work, and
Yeah.
that can cause a lot of one, stress to other coworkers. Two, you're not performing at your best ability, and like you're kind of zoned out.
Yeah.
You're not in the moment, and this can be it could really just kill you on the inside. On just one, you lose your
Yeah.
job, or you're at that point where you're like, dude, I want to kill myself because I just cannot handle these feelings anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we don't realize how much these negative emotions that come from these experiences in our personal life and in our work life could really affect us and weigh us down and just be that weight holding us down. And honestly, like it could affect our work, but I want people to know that it's not about performing well at work. That's not the only thing. Just to clarify, like it is about your mental health. Because I mean, even if you're able to perform well at work, but you're still, quote unquote, dying on the inside, and it's affecting the rest of your life, it's still not a good place to be in. Um, you could overcome that. You could get through that. So, Nico, let me ask you what, and then I'll share too. This is going to be a discussion. This is not an interview. I'm welcoming Nico onto the show so that we can discuss this and hopefully, bring something beneficial to you guys. Nico, what is something that has happened in your life, either in your personal life or in your work life, that has affected your mental health negatively?
Um, so a few things actually. I'm not very proud of like the things that I've done in my past, but I'm nor shame or I'm gonna hold guilt over myself because of them.
Yeah.
I've gone through a divorce. And when I was going through the divorce, I was heavy into drinking and using drugs. And because of this, I wasn't thinking off the best of my abilities and being able to control my actions. And I was more to react than to be able to pause and reflect on the things that I needed to change. So one, drugs and alcohol cause depression even more. It's kind of like a band-aid for a
Mm.
minute. You feel good, it helps drown away your pain and sorrows for that moment, but in the long run it causes more harm than good.
Yeah.
And I was upset, I was mad. um my ex-wife had nothing to do with it. It was all my problems that I was causing of why we're getting divorced. So I couldn't blame anyone else. I could always point the finger, but it was ultimately my reactions of how we were handling our situations. We were young, we had a child, we were like trying to make it work, and I was choosing partying over at that moment.
Mm.
And then when shit hit the fan, I wanted to blame everyone else instead of looking at my own actions of being a bigger man and actually showing up when I needed to show up. Um, that's just a
Yeah.
little background story. So when it came down to it, I was using drugs and alcohol, and I was angry, I was mad, very aggressive, and because of this, one of the times she like came, she like got back with her old boyfriend, came and picked up my son. I was so upset and mad. What do? I went wanted to go drink again, and so I ended up going to the bar, and I got blacked out drunk, and
Mm.
next thing I know, I ended up stabbing a dude in the neck with a beer bottle. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, I fucked myself up, dude. I was looking at 7 years going upstate, and I went to jail that night, and because of that, I was looking at assault with a deadly weapon, bodily fluid, attempted murder because of just the area that I stabbed him at. And it was like I could say it was self defense because I was fighting two other dudes, and the one guy got knocked out, and then his buddy jumped in, and then that's when I ended up like breaking a beer bottle and hitting him. And you know, I was like, dude, that's not who I am now. Anyone who knows me, I'm very happy and go lucky. I was just like very in a dark moment, and I ended up going to jail for a week trying to figure out bail and what to do. And I remember my coworkers, because I was working for a smaller company, dude, they're driving around looking for me because I didn't show up to work the next day. They're knocking on my door, looking in the windows, like they saw my car at the house and they just couldn't figure it out. And then they actually called the courts and they figured out, but I got bailed out the day that they were calling in to try to get me out, which was like such a blessing to know, like I have good friends that would show up for me and do that. And it's funny is Pinpoint Electric. My buddy Nick, he was actually my friend at that time that he was looking for me. So a big shout out for Nick on that. And
he's gonna be on the podcast next month.
Dude, he is? You got to talk to him? Perfect, dude.
Yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, tell us what Nico's really like.
Yeah, we were troublemakers back then, so we're doing a lot better now. I mean,
it's good. We've all been there. So let me ask you, how so the divorce definitely, or the problems with your marriage, definitely, that's a huge weight right there. Emotional weight. We don't understand the impact of emotional weight. Even when we go through it, like we tend to like to forget things or put things in their little cupboards, in our mind. But that is a huge, I've never experienced it myself, but I know emotional and mental strain and pain, that has to be hard to go through. I mean, I've been through a breakup. They're difficult.
yeah.
But a divorce, that's on a different level, especially when you have a kid. But how did you hurting somebody else in this bar fight, did that affect you mentally or emotionally? Or because that has to mess you up. Like getting into a fight, beating somebody up is one thing, but
Yeah.
hurting somebody and having time to reflect on it. I know
Yeah.
for me, it's hard thinking back on fights that I've been through where, somebody got really hurt or something. Not that I'm some great fighter, but everyone has their day. But yeah, how did that affect you?
One, I'm not a violent person it's not who I want to be. And I've always kind of trained and done some kind of martial art or like want to stay fit. And it was always because of just to protect me, myself, or my son or my family, in case of a scenario that was going down.
Smart.
And to be put in a situation where I'm causing damage to someone that like he has his family and he was just out trying to have a good time. And a bigger man would have just been like, you know what, this is I'm drunk, I should go home. Or that like, you know what, there's this situation, and just walk away. A bigger man walks away and knows, a wise man knows when to fight, especially one like to not lose the war. So basically, yeah, I won the battle, but I lost the war because, dude, I ended up having a bunch of court charges, facing going upstate. I ended up taking a plea deal, and the inner battles there weren't fixed, by the way, because this story kind of continues a little bit further of, I want to say, just because I kind of figured out this situation and was able to move on, my inner trauma because of wanting to be relationship wise, of not being able to fix my inside of how I feel about myself, it continued on. And it actually moved on to another kind of job where after the divorce and everything was done, I didn't actually was able to fix what I was feeling inside, the internal healing, basically. And this is why I like to say, if you're really hurting and need help, you should go seek out professionals, find a a psychiatrist that can maybe help you walk you through all this, go through therapy. Some people need AA or NA, maybe even a life coach,
Oh
and
yeah.
so I don't know if you've had to experience going to prison or jail, but it's yeah, you go in and you're reflecting on your life, but it's you kind of forget over time. I want to say it's kind of
Oh
like, yeah,
dude, yeah.
I remember going in, but dude, it's you hard time for the first 2 weeks, but then you adapt, and it's like you not really fixing what was the real problem at the time.
Yeah. A lot of people's prison experience, because I've been to prison, and a lot of people's prison experiences are very easy. I'm gonna be honest, especially in California. Prison out here, unless you're on like a level 3, level 4 yard, or you're on a really like active, violent yard, your prison experience is pretty cakewalk. It's like besides the fact that you're being told what to do and you have to strip down and all that jazz. Besides that, prison here is easy. It's not like a lot of places around the world. And unless you're on like a level 3 or level 4 yard, higher level yard, but a lot of people's prison experiences are chill. They realize like, hey, everybody's just it's like high school.
Yeah.
It's like a second childhood. You're just chilling with your friends and hanging out, and there's cigarettes and drugs, and people are making alcohol, and so it's you think it's a place where he's gonna be sat down, he's gonna have to do what they say, and he's gonna learn from this. But no, dude, like I don't know what about it, but it is almost designed to keep you in that bad place and not allow you to grow. And I had to choose, man. When I was locked up, I was 18 years old, and you know, I was 18 years old, and I went upstate. And when I was in reception, I had to decide right there. My bunkie, he was a dude, old timer. He was doing 35 years, just got his sentence, and he told me, he's like, "Look, dude," he's like, "you could either be active." I was reading the Bible at the time because when I was 16, I started trying to go to church, trying to read the Bible because I was just strung out on drugs. But he told me, he's like, look, you could either pick up the Bible and read that, or, you could keep being a knucklehead, but you can't do both. Nobody's going to respect you. And once I got to the main yard, I realized, wow, like that's serious. Like I see all these guys that pick up a Bible, and it's because they're scared. It's not because they want to change. Like I was trying to change before I went to prison. I was just strung out on drugs. But it could be a cakewalk going to prison here. It's not, somebody says I've been to prison. Doesn't make you tough, man. Doesn't make you tough. There are some weak people in prison, and they're no tougher than the day they got locked up when they get out. So yeah, you have to choose when you're in there how you're going to utilize your time. Are you going to better yourself, or are you going to just go right back into that trap, into all that mess that was your life before you got locked up?
A little side story on that. I remember talking to a dude that was in there, and it was, I asked him, I was like, hey dude, when you get out, what do you want to do? And it was crazy to me, or the insanity is that he wanted to go back out and do the exact same
Oh
thing
yeah,
that he got in trouble for. And he's like, you know what, this is all I know, and this is my life. And um it's
it's
crazy.
nuts.
I'm like, yeah, I was like, dude, you could go sign up for like junior college or some free classes, and or get into a trade and like change your life. And
Yeah.
it was sad of like, this is the mindset that some people have going in there. And
Yeah. I think that is a problem with the mental health we don't realize is, I mean, we don't realize how our lives affect us growing up, our upbringings, because, like if you have a hard upbringing and you make it through it, you're just like, oh, I'm just a strong person. Yeah, you made it through it, but you don't know how that affected you. And a lot of times people think, well, when I was young, we had it tough, but we turned out all right. But then they're taking it out on their kids, they're taking it out on their wives, they're taking it out on their coworkers, their employees, everybody else. They're making the weight of their emotional trauma when they were a kid, whatever they went through, other people's problems. So of course you could deal with it because you're not carrying the weight of it. You're putting it on other people in your actions. But I'm actually getting sidetracked. So some people, they can't change because they don't know any better. When I was young, dude, I never thought I'd own a car. I never thought I'd have a job. Like I was raised, I always used to joke around when I was a youngster that I was raised by a pack of wild gang members. So, somewhere in West LA, because, a lot of my peers were gang members. I've seen a lot of stuff when I was young. So, as a 12, 13-year-old kid, I never thought I'd own a car. I never thought I'd have a license. I just figured I'd steal a car. I figured I'd just sell drugs. I wouldn't get a job. I would sell drugs. But this was my mindset. And once I started hitting like like 17, 18 years old, I really felt like a loser because I was like, well, like I'm trapped here. This is who I am. I can't be anything else. And, it took the grace of God, learning truth in the Bible, and positive people that looked at me. And even though I was this gang member, even though I was this whatever young idiot that looked at me and said, like, no, you can change, you can do something different. But that guy you met when you were incarcerated, a lot of people, they don't have that knowledge, and you can't do what you don't know. And that's a sad reality.
Yeah. Um, 2 points I wanted to like just jump off of you on that is with the trauma and whatever they're kind of going through on how your upbringing is. A lot of people are upset and mad, and like like that's where like bullying on the job site kind of comes in,
Yeah.
where someone's so mad and upset about how their life is that they're making their apprentice's life a living hell,
Yeah.
because they just hate themselves so much that they have to throw out that hate in some way or just make the other coworkers' life a living hell. So knowing that, one, it's kind of having acceptance of how other people's react, but at the same time, you got to have a level of respect where it's just like, dude, if this is out of hand, you need to be able to tell that person like that's enough, or I'm not working with you.
Oh
Find
yeah.
quit your job to go find a better job, to work in a better, healthy environment. But because if you're unhappy while you're working, you're really just giving yourself the short end of the chain.
Oh yeah. I actually I got a couple episodes that I'm working on that are going to try to address that because one, again, you don't know what you don't know. And somebody's going to stay in their position because one, they're afraid. They have these mental blocks. They're afraid that they're not going to be able to get another job, right? I mean, you had that, right? Like, if I leave this company, this other company, what if I'm not good enough? What if I get laid off? What if something happens? And the devil we know is better than the devil we don't know sometimes. So they have that mental block. And then another thing is some people just think like, well, this is the way life is. This person's treating me maybe the same way my dad treated me, or the same way my mom treated me, or the same way my in-laws treated me, whatever it is. So it's like they're used to that abuse. So they never get the chance to have any freedom or leave that company. But I'm working on a couple of episodes kind of just talking about boundaries and how to create them, what healthy boundaries are. Kind of just working through some of those mental traps. But
The
I'm gonna shut up and let you finish your points.
No, well, that is a good point because of, one, I want to say there's the fear of the unknown. So,
Yeah,
instead of having those healthy boundaries, people have this fear of like, oh, this is just how it is and how
yeah,
people should interact. Maybe that their family life is the same way, and then they just have this acceptance of like, oh, this is how I've been treated my whole life, so it's okay.
yeah.
Like I still get treated this way instead of being able to handle
That
the
sucks.
situation differently. It's sad, right? Very sad. But you guys can change this. This is not how you have to be. I wanted to go into two is we get sad and depressed when we see all these other people excelling sometimes, and we have the
Yeah,
fear of change because I'm comfortable. But we get depressed when we're on Instagram and we're seeing all these other guys succeed and doing well, and they might have all the girls or something. But dude, comparison is the thief of all joy. If I am
yep.
comparing myself to somebody else, I'm stealing all this happiness because I'm like, dude, I should be there, and I'm getting upset and I'm frustrated. And reality is, dude, when we're doing life, dude, we are all on a different racetrack, and their track might be straight there, but ours goes all the way
Oh
around.
yeah,
But eventually we get to our destination if we make sure to make a point of, this is my goal, this is how I'm going to execute it, I'm going to do XYZ. And I have to just know that where I stand is not going to be the same as anyone else's. So
yeah.
that
So,
that was a big problem for me, for sure. Is
oh heck yeah,
yeah. I don't
no,
know.
yeah, that's.
You guys know my brother's a pro surfer, so
Oh, he
I
should have been an electrician. Gosh, I still got to go on his YouTube and tell him that. Like, you should have been an electrician, like your brother. You
dude,
want to be a famous surfer?
he had a hard time reading a tape measure, so I don't know if he would ever make
That's
it.
hilarious. I can't read a tape measure. I'll just go be a pro surfer instead.
Yeah.
I guess. Oh
And it's like I would always be like, dude, he's traveling the world, surfing the best places, and you know, um, I had to do some internal healing, and I couldn't be
yeah,
more proud of my brother at
that's
where he's
awesome.
at, and so stoked for all his accomplishments that he's done, and I'm very proud to be like his brother. And
That's
it's fun
awesome.
because he throws out like, dude, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be where I'm at, and I'm just like, sometimes I'm like, I don't know, dude. I think you
Really,
did.
you look at you and like, I don't want to be like that guy. No, it's playing. Thank you
Yeah,
for giving me
exactly.
an
That
example.
was
No.
the motivation.
Oh heck yeah, it's a good motivation. No.
So
That's good, man. Before we get into some of the solutions that we talked about, I'm just gonna share just a bit about some of the. Unless you had another point you wanted to make on that.
no, dude, please continue. I like hearing your story.
I know it's good. I like the conversation, man. This is cool. I mean, we worked and I didn't know any of these things about you. It's not because I don't pay attention to you when you're talking either. It's because we talked about a lot of things, dude. We've talked about a lot of things on the job site, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's just so much to our lives that takes a long time to unpack.
I'm
But
a
for
man of mystery, dude. Man of
Oh, many
mystery.
mysteries.
Yeah.
That's right. Podcast material. I like it. No. Um, One thing for me is I I had a lot of trauma from growing up that I didn't know about. A lot of stuff I didn't realize until I got married, right?
Mm.
Because for me, I'm I never realized I was in survival mode in life. I was always in survival mode. And whenever I messed up or something happened, I could deal with it, take care of it, and move on. Right? My mistakes, I could just deal with them, sweep them under the rug, and move on. But when you're married, you know, when you make a mistake and you try to sweep it under the rug, your wife's just looking at you, right? Or your spouse is looking at you like, "Are we going to talk about this?" I wasn't planning on it, you know. And so I love my wife. She's awesome, and we had a lot of difficulties when we first got married, and a lot of it came from our own childhood stresses and trauma and emotional baggage and weight. But together we've been learning to work on that stuff. And for me, I didn't realize until like 2 3 months ago that I actually have like a lot of anxiety.
Mm.
And I didn't realize this because for me, I've been on fight mode. I've been on fight or flight mode my entire life. And I didn't realize it, but my wife could see it, right? Other people could see stuff in us that we don't see. For me, it's natural. It's like, yeah, this is the situation that's at hand. I need to take care of it now, you know? And after she would tell me for a while, like, hey, you have anxiety. I'm like, I don't have anxiety, right? Because for me, an anxious person, some weak person's that's scared. And I didn't realize, I go, oh, everybody's scared. Everybody's scared of something. I'm just maybe better at hiding it in front of people.
That's
And
also the man stigma, bro, of like not wanting to
oh
talk
yeah,
about it or admit it.
yeah. Because I read a book called I think it's called Wild at Heart, and it's about is it Wild at Heart? Might have been Wild at Heart, or it's something like that. No, it was another book. I can't remember the name. But anyways, in this book, the guy talks about being a man, and he says that most people don't learn how to be a man. They've never learned what does it mean to be a man. So we pretend like we're men,
Mm.
and we fight everything that tries to oppose that or expose it. Anything that tries to expose that I'm not the man that I should be, I'm gonna fight against. Family, friends, everything. And that really impacted me. Um, but my wife telling me about this anxiety thing and us having long walks and, deep conversations, right? Um, through our difficulties, I thought about it and I really worked through what does it mean, to have anxiety. And then I realized like when me and my wife are fighting, I immediately my anxiety goes up. And some days at work, like I'll just have this depression and I'll have this anxiety, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I just felt like, man, something's wrong and I have to fix it. I didn't realize that my emotional and mental response to it, anxiety and depression, weren't good. I just thought, well, that's just, something's wrong. I have to fix it. And this is how you feel when you have to fix something wrong, but it's not. The cool thing is, I learned, well, I shouldn't, I'm going into the next portion. So I'll just say this one thing that I'll move
Oh,
back into
no,
my
yeah,
actual
keep
story.
going, dude.
But I learned that since I could name it, I know it's anxiety. Immediately, as soon as I was able to name it, I was able to deal with it. And I went from, a whole workday of just feeling anxious while doing my job, taking care of business, having this anxiety, having this depression, to being able to just, I guess, ease out of it. Still have the problem, still have to deal with it. But when I realized, like, oh, this is just a mental thing, it's not actually happening. It's just my mental and emotional response to this thing. And it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy for me to be anxious. So, um, I would just pray, say, God, give me the strength to overcome this anxiety and work through this. And I will feel good. I still have to take care of whatever the problem is that was causing it. When I was able to name the anxiety and realize it was anxiety, I was able to start to realize, okay, well, what's causing that anxiety?
Mm.
But we're gonna have to come back to that because I'm getting ahead of where we're at. So I'll
Yeah,
talk about
no,
some of that later.
identifying the problems, one of the biggest things that we need to go over today. So that's
Troubleshooting our lives. That's what we should call this. Troubleshooting our lives.
great.
Um, we'll start an electrical therapy
Yeah, pull
ministry
out the
counseling.
meter so we can see how much our anxiety level's at right now.
That's hilarious. But for me, a lot of my trauma started when I was young. My dad passed away when I was 6. And apparently, between the ages of 5 and 8, I barely realized this a few months ago, too. Those are like years where a child actually thinks their parents aren't going to return. Children between 5 and 8 years old have an anxiety, and it's just a natural thing that when their parents leave for the market, for work, whatever it is, they're not going to return. And if your parent for some reason does not return and they die, they abandon you, that has huge emotional and mental implications. And I didn't know that. I could look back in my life and I could see the weight of that. But I was actually going through 50 Cent's book, Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter. Actually, a really good book, dude. That fool is smart.
I actually want
Um,
to read that. That sounds like a rad reading.
dude, it is good. It is good. He talks about his business stuff and his own life, and but he lost his mom when he was around like 6, 7 years old. She was murdered, and him going through therapy and realizing that it affects you harder when you're at those ages. I read that and I was like, wow, my dad died when I was 6. A lot of things make sense. And, from that, I just carried that weight. I gave up on school. 6 years old, gave up on school, gave up on caring about stuff. I just was just depressed. And I never had the proper therapy to work through those things. And my household, a lot of people would argue, a lot of people would fight. I said I was raised by a pack of wild gang members, jokingly, but yeah, a lot of my family were, uh, you know, gang members or in that lifestyle. And seeing people fight, like physically fist fight, not just family members, but people coming to our house starting trouble and, uncles and stuff going out and having to physically fight people, or me and my brother having to physically fight people, just where we're at growing up, that holds a weight, dude. That holds a weight. I'm trying to deal with this adult issue of my dad dying, carrying that weight, and just occupying space in my mind. And I think that's something to know. When you have trauma or just some mental weight, that's taking up space in your mind. Your mind, even when you're not thinking about it, your mind is thinking about it because it's trying to process this in the background of your mind. So it's taking up space in your mind trying to think about it, even when you're not thinking about it. So it's always this weight on your shoulder. But for me, having all these experiences and these difficult situations, these traumas, people arguing in my house, I was always on fight or flight mode. And I didn't realize that was some baggage I carried into my adulthood. I when I was 17, dude, I was just super depressed, strung out on drugs, super depressed, and it was around this time that my aunt actually, shared the gospel with me and told me about Jesus and, just what I needed to believe, that Jesus died for my sins, that I was a sinner, and at that point I already knew it too, Um and I really wanted that. I really wanted that, but all this baggage I was carrying, it doesn't automatically go away. If you start going to therapy, if your life is changed and you're born again because you believe in Jesus, these things don't automatically just go away. You still have to deal with them. But in my mind, I thought, oh,
I'm saved.
yeah, I'm saved if I could get off drugs. Drugs is my biggest problem. That's what I thought it was. Drugs was not my problem. Drugs was the symptom. It wasn't the
Yeah,
problem. It was
yes,
the
yeah.
symptom.
That it was
And
inside basically, and I wanted to ask too,
yeah,
was because of like seeing your uncles kind of come in and the violence and everything, was that something you kind of looked up to while you're going through all of this too?
yeah, I'll tell you what I looked up to because I was never a violent person. I like, me and my brother were pretty creative, and my sister, we, regular kids, and I was never some violent kid. But what I looked up to was the ability to protect the people you loved.
Mhm.
And in the environment that I grew up in, I mean, normally that's a good thing. But in the environment I grew up in, it was very toxic. Because for me, everybody was the enemy. You know, everybody was the enemy. You don't know where the fight's going to come from. So yeah, I did look up to it. And to answer your question, but it was because I had that desire in this violent situation to be able to protect my family.
Mm. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing, dude. I know this ain't easy to talk about sometimes. It's so getting vulnerable is pretty rad. You're able to do that.
Yeah.
I would hold that in till the end until you know, I had to go through some shit that finally I came to such a low point that I remember my family was like, "Hey, do you want to get some help?" And I was so broken and at the bottom that I was like, "Yes, I need help."
Yeah. It's a good place to be, man, where you're just like, yes. Not everybody does that. They're like, nope.
Yeah. And my story was very similar to yours of that drugs and alcohol were not what was wrong with me. What was wrong was the internal stuff that I needed to heal from. That was
Yeah.
just a symptom of what I used to cope with. And
Yeah.
it just drove me more into insanity because I would do the same shit expecting different results and it
Yeah.
would plan out to be the same. Um, some of the stuff too, mental health month we talked about was that suicide is a big
Yeah.
one. And that, when it comes to drugs and alcohol, because we become into this depressive state and that our lives and our traumas, that everything that goes on, we continue to go down this rabbit hole to a point where it's just like, I've had enough and I
Yeah.
can't deal with it anymore. And I want to kill myself. Uh,
Yeah.
my story was basically that. Like I said, when I went through the divorce, I ended up getting into another toxic relationship because I actually didn't heal what was inside of me. And I didn't do therapy. I didn't do anything. All I did was that I went to jail, got some time off, and that, just like how you're saying, it was stored in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Just didn't um I didn't process it and I wasn't able to heal from it. So jumping into this next relationship, I did exactly the same shit, just with a different girl at this time. And this time, I got sober for a little bit, but it was more of just because of the fear of going back to jail and courts and stuff. So I was able to like lean off for a little bit, but I think they call it like being a dry alcoholic, basically.
Yeah.
So it's just like I'm not really doing AA or anything. It's more of I was just fear based.
Yeah.
And once I got back in that toxic relationship, I started to drink and use alcohol more. And when I became in that state of mind, I did attempt suicide. One, I
Mm.
overdosed on heroin and was needed to be
Oh,
Narcan. And
wow.
then the other time, I lost that connect. I mean, I could always find it, but I was starting to use uppers because I didn't want to be in that state of mind anymore. Side note, I basically was so depressed that I was like, this is it. I went to Home Depot. I was crying in line. I bought duct tape and a garden hose, and I tried to gas myself. I taped up my windows in my car, taped
Gosh.
the garden hose up into my thing. When the ambulance found me, I was unconscious. They had to revive me on the side of the road.
You
And
actually tried it. You actually did it.
oh yeah, no, I did it. Yeah, I
Oh,
was
wow.
like they said I was dead for like at least 2 minutes. And when they revived me, and I remember waking up in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. And
Yeah.
yeah, I ended up having to, after I spent the night there, it was like almost 2 days, and then I ended up they had to take me to the psych ward because I was not in the right state of mind.
Yeah.
I was so depressed and broken. And, like I said, I had to be put to a certain point before I could actually ask for help. I think the biggest point right now that I'm trying to tell people is that if you know you're sad and depressed, get help now. Don't wait till it's too late or like you actually attempt suicide or actually are able to you might actually you might do suicide and actually die and you won't get this chance. So
Yeah.
be aware of your coworkers too, bro. The ones that are quiet, that seem depressed and that they're going through something when normally they're like talkative and happy. Those are the guys you need to check in with or like kind of see what's going on. Um,
Yeah.
and then there's also the guys that kind of have the dark humor that laugh at
Oh,
stuff.
heck yeah.
You're fucking
That's trauma.
so bad inside, but in reality,
Yeah.
you're hurting. So
Yeah. Let me ask you, Nico, after that attempted suicide or, yeah, that attempted suicide,
yeah.
how did you feel after when you were revived? Was it, oh, thank God that didn't, I mean, immediately after, was it thank God that didn't go through? I don't want to die. I want to live. Or were you like, why the heck did you bring me back?
Uh, it was a mixed emotions. I kind of want to say it was kind of both because my moods were fluctuating.
Yeah.
I was definitely, at some points I was like, man, I wish I was still dead. And then the other moments was like, man, what have I done? Like the
Yeah.
cause more harm to my family. I almost left my son. Um, my
Mm.
coworkers had no idea what happened to me. It was and ultimately inside I was more mad at myself that I just caused more damage than the damage that I've already caused. So
Yeah.
um you know I got to stop beating up on myself about that stuff, and that was
Yeah.
one of the biggest things about healing is don't be so hard on yourself. We're near images of God. We're not perfect. We're meant to fail,
Yeah.
and God knows that. Being a man, you should know that failure is okay.
Yeah.
What makes us being a man is being able to like get back up and get back out there and try even harder to like get to our goals. Not suicide.
Yeah.
I mean, like fucking,
Yeah,
but like to
don't try
better
that harder.
ourselves. Yeah.
No, it's true. The reason I asked that question though is because on YouTube you can see these videos of people that have attempted suicide by jumping off of a bridge. And I highly recommend going and looking these videos up, especially if you feel depressed, because they're so encouraging and inspiring. Because one dude, he jumps off this bridge. I don't know, I think it was like the Gate Bridge or some bridge you should have died, right? And his thoughts were immediately after jumping is, why did I do that? I want to live.
Mm,
Why did I do that? I want to live. And, we could be in a place where we're so emotionally distraught and brought down that we want to cure it at any cost. We want to cure it at any cost. We got this weight and it's holding us down, and we just want it off at any cost. And we think sometimes that suicide could be an option just to end that suffering, end that pain. But a lot of times, if we had the option after, it would be no, there was another way to do it. This way, I don't get any second chances. So I'm definitely going to put a number for suicide hotline in the description, somewhere you guys could find. And if you guys, anybody watching this, is suffering from anything, I mean, it could just be you going through a hard time in your marriage, you going through a divorce, whatever it is, don't feel weak that your situation isn't like Nico's, or your situation isn't like something I went through. Your situation isn't worthy of being addressed because it's smaller, right? It's that's there's no such thing as your situation smaller. So, I think we like to compare our lives and think, well, I don't have it that bad, I'm not like starving, working in some, looking for food and some scraps in some third world country, right? I got it pretty good, but that might be their issue, but you have your own issue. And for you, it's just as real and just as heavy as anybody else's situation. So if anything is going on with you, feel free to message us, email us, and we'll definitely try to point you in the right direction.